Sir, in the very near future we will be experiencing our first 9/11 anniversary with you as Commander-in-Chief.
Yes, a very solemn day for our nation, a day of reflection, and yet a day of historical consciousness as well.
Very much so, sir. Very much so indeed. Now, in researching your position regarding the events of 9/11 and the subsequent investigation that followed, am I correct to understand that you fully support and endorse the findings of the Commission report, otherwise known as the official story?
Do I have any reason not to, given that most of us are presumably in touch with similar evidence?
I really wish that were the case, sir. Are you aware, Mr. President, of the recent stunning revelations that 60% of the 9/11 Commission have publicly stated that the government agreed not to tell the truth about 9/11 and that the Pentagon was engaged in deliberate deception about their response to the attack?
I am aware of certain infighting during the course of their very thorough and tireless investigation process.
Mr. President, it's hard to label this type of friction as infighting or make the irresponsible leap to thorough when the evidence I insist you examine regarding 6 of the 10 members are statements of fact.
No disrespect, Mr. Sheen, but I have to ask, what is it that you seem to be implying with the initial direction of this discussion?
I am not implying anything, Mr. President. I am here to present the facts and see what you plan to do with them.
Let me guess, your facts allegedly supporting these claims are in the folders you brought with you.
Good guess, Mr. President. Again, sir, these are not my opinions or assumptions. This is all a matter of public record, reported through mainstream media, painstakingly fact-checked and verified. You'll notice, sir, on page 1 of the dossier dated August of '06 from the Washington Post, the statements of John Farmer, senior counsel to the 9/11 Commission. His quote stating, "I was shocked how different the truth was from the way it was described." He goes on to further state, the NORAD air defense tapes told a radically different story from what had been told to us and the public for 2 years. On pages 2 and 3, sir, are the statements, as well as from Commissioner Co-Chairman Thomas Keane and Lee Hamilton, Commissioners Bob Kerrey, Tom Romer, and John Lehman, as well as the statements of Commissioner Max Cleland, an ex-senator from Georgia, who resigned, stating, "It's a national scandal. This investigation is now compromised. One of these days we will have to get the full story because the 9/11 issue is so important to America. But this White House wants to cover it up." He also described President Bush's desire to delay the process as not to damage the '04 election bid. They suspected deception to the point where they considered referring the matter to the Justice Department for criminal investigation. Mr. President, this information alone is unequivocally grounds for a new investigation.
Mistakes were clearly made, but we as a people and as a country need to move forward. It is obviously in our best interest as a democratic society to focus our efforts and our resources on the future of this great nation and our ability to protect the American people and our allies from this type of terrorism in the coming years.
Sir, how can we focus on the future when the Commission itself is on record stating that they still do not know the truth?
Even if what you state might in some capacity begin to approach an open discussion or balanced debate, I can't speak for it, or about the discussions certain commission members made during an extremely difficult period. Perhaps you should be interviewing them instead of me. Wait, don't tell me. I was easier to track down than they were.
Not exactly, sir. But let's be honest. You're the President of the United States, the leader of the free world. The buck stops with you. 9/11 has been the pretext for a systematic dismantling of our Constitution and Bill of Rights. Your administration is reading from the same playbook that the Bush administration fostered on America through documented secrecy and deception.
Mr. Sheen, I'm having a difficult time sitting here and listening to you draw distorted parallels between the Bush and Cheney regime and mine.
Mr. President, the parallels are not distorted just because you say they are. Let's stick to the facts. You promised to abolish the Patriot Act and then voted to reauthorize it. You pledged to end warrantless wiretapping against the American people and now energetically defend it. You decried the practice of rendition and now continue it. You promised over and over again on the campaign trail that you would end the practice of indefinite detention, and instead you have expanded it to permanent detention of detainees without trial. This far exceeds the outrages of the former administration. Call me crazy, Mr. President, but is this not your record?
Mr. Sheen, my staff and I authorized this interview based on your request to discuss 9/11 and deliver some additional information you've convinced I've not previously reviewed. Call me crazy, but it appears as though you blindly wandered off topic.
Sir, the examples I just illustrated are a direct result of 9/11.
And I'm telling you that we must move forward. We must endure through these dangerous and politically challenging years ahead.
Mr. President, we can't move forward with a bottomless warren of unanswered questions surrounding that day and its aftermath.
I read the official report, every word, every page. Perhaps you should do the same.
I have, sir, and so have thousands of family members of the victims. And guess what? They have the same questions I do, and probably a lot more. I didn't lose a loved one on the horrific day, Mr. President, and neither did you. But since then, I, along with millions of other Americans, lost something we held true and dear for most of our lives in this great country of ours. We lost our hope.
And I'd like to believe that I'm here to restore that hope. To restore confidence in your leaders, in the system that the voting public chooses through a peaceful transfer of power.
Mr. President, are you aware of the number of days it took to begin the investigation into JFK's assassination?
If memory serves, I believe it was 2 weeks.
Close. 17 days to be exact. Are you aware, sir, how long it took to begin the investigation into Pearl Harbor?
I would say again about 2 weeks.
Close. Again, sir. 11 days to be exact. Are you aware, Mr. President, how long it took to begin the investigation into 9/11?
I know it must have seemed like a very long time for all the grieving families.
It was a very long time, Mr. President. 440 days, roughly 14 months. Does it bother you, Mr. President, that it only took 5 hours for Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld, after the initial attack, to recommend and endorse a full-scale offensive against Iraq?
I am not aware of any purported claim.
I have the proof, Mr. President, along with scores of documents and facts I'd like you to take a look at.
I see you came prepared, Charlie.
No other way to show up, Mr. President. When in doubt, over-prepare, I always say.
Now you sound like the First Lady.
That's quite a compliment, sir.
As you wish. Please continue.
Sir, I'd like to direct your attention to the stack of documents in the folders I just handed you. The first in from the top is entitled Operation Northwoods, a declassified Pentagon plan to stage terror attacks on U.S. soil, to be blamed on Cuba as a pretext for war.
And I'd like to direct your attention to the fact that the principal craftsman of this improbable blueprint was quickly denied a second term as Joint Chief Chairman and sent packing to a European NATO garrison. Thank God his otherworldly ambitions never saw the light of day.
I wouldn't be so certain about that, Mr. President.
I could easily say the same to you, Charlie.